So good afternoon. My name's Julie and I'm from SJP Law, and this afternoon we've got Mr. Gilles Rabaud who is a medical device scientist who's going to talk about his work in the field of neurofeedback. I will let Gilles introduce himself.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Gilles Rabaud, and I'm sort of entered the rabbit hole of neurostimulation and neurofeedback purely for personal reasons, because my daughter suffered from an intractable form of epilepsy, which couldn't be completely resolved medically. I was seeking to find ways of alleviating the problem. After all those of you involved with epilepsy are you're actually familiar with the fact that it causes a lot of anxieties, causes mood swings, it's going to disrupts the cognition of the individual, and so basically can make life difficult to live with. So I entered this world, and as I stepped into this world, I realized that the equipment I was acquiring was actually very useful to help people with general anxiety and depression. So I set out to help everyone else at the same time through creating a therapy center called the Brain Lab, which is in Swansea. Yes, so yeah.
And what sort of things does your work include, Jill? What sort of neurological conditions? I know you spoke about epilepsy, but any other conditions that you see in your work?
Yeah, I mean, what you realize, my sort of the starting point is the fact that we can help with anxiety generally. Now, any brain and mental issues will bring you to have anxiety. So from my point of view, the therapy helps with anxiety. You can have anxiety-induced depression, which is quite, is quite common, and or you can have depression which doesn't have anxiety there, and we can deal with that. I'm not specifically aim at seeing conditions as names. My training had led me to see it as basically brain imbalances, and we've got here at the Brain Lab, we've got quite a few options of modalities which help the individual deal with that. So it's a very customized sort of system in a way. It's what does that person need, where do they want to go, what's their journey? Because remember, if you help anyone, at the end of the day, they go back to their environment. So that environment could be what's negative to them as well. So you need to see the ensemble of the situation for that person. But by and large, I find that people find it helpful because they come to me for they're on a journey. They've taken that decision. The journey is right. I'm not happy with what I've got. I need to do something about it. I've tried various options. Some of them may be medical or not, whatever. And let's see what's this other sort of this madman in Swansea can do, and they come to me. So by and large, I don't think I've disappointed many people. So
okay. So what are the sort of treatments that you would provide, Jill?
Yeah. Okay. So the treatment are therapies. There's a magnetic therapy, which is pulse magnetic therapy, which we combined with sometimes trans current stimulation as well. It's all very low-powered stuff. I call it sort of the fairy hammers, little hammers, because we do have another modality also available to us, which is called TMS, transmagnetic stimulation. For that I work with a colleague who's a qualified neuropsychologist, etc. So I've got a number of aspects, including what's the other one? Pulse infrared stimulation. That's also another aspect that we offer. But I've got to say, it's when we talk about therapies, the thing I've learned so far is we need to establish the starting point. The starting point being what's happening to that individual, what's in the brain, what's the imbalance for, and that bit dictates the type of treatment, how we're going to use the treatment, and which one we're going to use. So you need to have the right horse for the right course, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. So how do you establish that sort of starting point?
Yeah, so my starting point for me is doing an EEG, electroencephalogram. It's a standard internationally recognized way of taking a recording of the brain, so it's non-invasive. You take a recording of 19 locations on the brain, and those 19 locations, I've got all waves of different wavelengths, they're all mixed together, and then by taking that data, we process it through a very expensive computer program, and that computer program then gives you something called a brain map. A brain map is a bit like a heat map, tells you which bit's hotter and colder than other. But more advanced than a brain map it is, because it also gives you a measure of the connectivity, because for instance, I think the more recent work on say the autistic individuals, I noticed that there is a lack of connection between, say, the limbic system, the inside of the brain, to the frontal cortex, for example. So it's a question of where's the connection that individual are. I mean, most individuals have been well before they come to me. So how are they going to get well again, or can we just alleviate their problem and they'll be happy? So that's what I try to establish.
And once you've established that sort of starting point, what sort of things would you be looking at doing with those individuals? I know you mentioned infrared earlier on. So what are the things, the treatment, what does that look like for an individual?
Yeah, well, the course treatment, the one that's usually most likely to be used, because it's more, remember, I'm part of a research group that's fine-tuning all the time here. But one of the things we can do with pulse electromagnetic force is you can actually choose the right frequency to encourage the brain to do the thing you want it to do. So perhaps I should explain this now. I mean, for instance, there are special frequencies that the neurons vibrate at when they generate inhibitory frequencies. So if you got hyperactivity, you want to create inhibitory, and inhibitory is well known as GABA, as in, we all know people who take gabapentin as a medication, and pregabalin, etc. I mean, the brain's got its own, so it's a question of, well, let's encourage the brain to make more of its own. And it's based on the fact that, I mean, I must say, nobody really knows how it works, because the brain has got, billions of neurons that are doing all these processes, and we're finding out new bits every day, and we're giving them new names. But what we're generally looking at is that the brain is quite happy to balance itself, and the neurons are good mimics, and they like mimicking. So if you, I should say, play the right tune, they will try to copy that tune, and then they'll get in harmony with that tune, and they'll continue to do that even when you take the equipment away. But it's a form of neurocoaching that I do. It's and the coaching, and basically varies for individuals. Some will pick it up straight away, and some people can kick like David Beckham from day one, and some people like me cannot. So it's one of those things. You just have to show a lot of openness. In that field.
And can you say, of any outcomes that you've had through this? Is there anybody that comes to mind that you could see some significant outcomes with through the treatment?
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of significant ones. I mean, when I first started, I had someone who had a stroke, and we ended up having epileptic fits. I mean, he was, I was treating him to reduce his anxiety, but what happened to him was that he doesn't have any epileptic fits now, but he's actually, because his stroke was very very debilitating. He couldn't. He had real trouble, keeping awake and things. I mean, because obviously his brain was in such an excitatory state. He was worn out all the time.
Yeah.
And because the brain is trying to repair itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
So by doing that, we've improved his situation. I mean, there's more to be had with him, But I mean, he's more able to try and get off his chair and stand up now, which he would never have done before. Another individual more recently, which was quite salient, was somebody who was actually being treated for cardiology problems, and was, he even lost his job. And when he came to me, I realized he had a very mild form of epilepsy that was debilitating him, and he was just making it worse by eating, without naming any brands here, he was eating a lot of foods with monosodium glutamate. And it's a simple thing, this, but it's easily done. And when he eliminated them, he went, hey, I don't get this. So, basically, I have a tailored approach to the individual.
So you take, so it's definitely an individual approach for each person.
Yeah, I mean, I had someone just before you started this, someone who've been coming to me regularly because as a result of cancer treatment, the cerebellum had been damaged, and it was, and walking was very difficult for that person. That person was getting very anxious, very stressed, and I did say to them, look, I'm not going to I don't know about making you walk better, but suddenly you look very agitated to me. And she said, you're right. So having treated her for this anxiety, that person suddenly went, hey, I don't mind walking up the stairs anymore. So it wasn't the legs giving up. I mean, the legs are not very good. Yeah. But if you're worried about it, you're less likely to do it. So it's,
it's that perception, isn't it? That
perception again. So I think anxiety is the main component of the worst of the symptoms of anything.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of other bits that we build on as well.
It's brilliant. And you did mention that you were based in Swanland. Yeah. Is there any other way that people can have a look at what you do and look at the work that you do? Do you have a website?
Yes, I mean, I've got my website, thebrainlab.co.uk. Yeah, it probably doesn't reflect everything I do, but it's more or less. It gives an introduction to the individual to what can be done with the brain, if you see what I mean. Yeah.
And I think it's worth looking at because you have pieces of research on there that actually backs up the information and the treatment that you're offering. Yeah. Well, I'd like to say thank you for taking some time out and helping us to support Brain Injury Awareness Week. And we will upload this to our site sometime this week for people to watch and follow. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you very much, Julie. Thank you for including me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.